right, welcome back, everybody. Just want to get started here. We have a new podcast guest. Today we have Coach Paul Baruffi. He is the head coach of Ocean City High School, their girls basketball team, and I want to welcome him to the show. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, Mike.
Good. I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to get started. We're going to start with your background. I know you're a South Jersey guy. Why don't you tell us about where you grew up?
I grew up in Vineland. Went all through public school there. Graduated in 1982. Played football and basketball. I come from a long line of Baruffis that played either football or basketball at Vineland. So kind of when you went to the high school, you're expected to play. And I was actually the last of a long generation of family members that went through the high school.
Wow. How many
Excuse me?
How many siblings do you have?
I'm the youngest of 5.
Oh, wow. So
But my extended family, my father's brothers, their sons, a lot of them went through the high school in either the late 60s or early 70s. My cousin Steve actually played with Joe Bryant, Kobe Bryant's father at LaSalle, for Paul Westhead, who later on coached the Lakers. So when I was 7 or 8 years old, that's I think around when Steve was playing at LaSalle, and I would go to several of the games with my uncle. So there was and then he had brothers that played, and then my brother actually played at St. Augustine Prep on Paul Rodeo's first team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys have carved I guess a big chain and a big path there at Vineland. So what's Vineland known for? I know that they have the drive in there, but what's the area known for? I'm not really too familiar with Vineland.
A big part of the community is actually farming. There is a good portion of it that in East Vineland, and that's where I grew up. It's actually a very large city as far as land is concerned, so there's that aspect to it. There is a center city part to it, and then West Vineland is a whole nother like rural area. So there's a lot of people. I think sometimes it kind of gets lost because of location, but now with it being close to Route 55 and the access to Philly and stuff like that, there's a lot more industry and stuff that is built on the outskirts. So it's changed a little bit since I lived there.
Wow. So thinking back to high school, what were your favorite like sports and kind of memories being an athlete in high school?
I always wanted to play football. Like I said, my cousins all went through and played, and I remember going to their games, and I had a neighbor who would take me to every one of the games, home and away, from when I was like 7, 8 years old up until I was going to play in high school. And then I played on the high school team my senior year. We played Millville, who's our big rival. We had the same record, and normally it's a Thanksgiving Day game, which gets thousands of people. We were both had the same record, and we're playing for a place in the States in the playoffs. So we ended up playing on a Saturday, and they beat us. I believe it was 15-13. It was a really close game. So we lost the conference championship, and we lost the opportunity to go to the state playoffs by losing the same game. And then my senior year at Vineland, our basketball team, we were 20-5. We set a school record for wins. We made it to the South Jersey finals, and we played Camden up at Rutgers at the Rack. They had Billy Thompson, who was a McDonald's All-American. He was interviewed by Al McGuire. If anybody remembers back in the day, Al McGuire would interview the #1 player in the country on TV. And Kevin Walls was also on that team, who was someone who scored like 80 points in a game. They were phenomenal. They blew us out. Yeah, it was great getting there, but we weren't even close to the level of what they were.
Yeah, but I think that represents South Jersey. You have these teams that are hardworking. They represent their school, and it's just about the experience. And just to say that you made it that far and you played against those players is something that to be proud of, and that's exciting.
Yeah, it was a good experience, and playing at Rutgers was kind of neat, and having that be your last game. And playing in that environment was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, here you are, you graduate high school, and what did you go to college for to study?
I kind of always knew I was going to be a teacher,
Okay.
coach. My whole family is in education except for my one brother, who decided to. He was a smart one. He went into business as far as making money. But my father was a teacher. He's a college professor. My mom was a teacher. My older brothers and sisters are teachers, and some of my extended family. So I had the opportunity to go play football. I'll be honest with you, my grades weren't great. My father was a professor at Atlanta Community College, and I decided to go there and play basketball, which in the long run turned out how I ended up in Ocean City. So my coach there later on became the head coach and was a teacher at Ocean City High School. And he had called me to come down and coach with him after I graduated from Glassboro. So we actually, my second year there, we were something like, I'd want to say 19-6. Without the 3-point line at one time, we were averaging like 109 points a game. We had a bunch of guys that had gone away to other schools and either came back, or guys who just, again, didn't have the grades to go places. Some really good players, a couple, 2,000 or 3,000 point high school, scorers. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun playing. I had a good time with it. And it turned, anybody that played junior college will tell you the travel is pretty tough. You're up and down the parkway. You're playing in front of about 20 people most times. There's not a whole bunch of fanfare with that, but we got pretty good where we started to draw a good amount of fans at our home games. So, it turned out to be a pretty good experience.
Yeah, that's impressive. 100-something points per game. That's very impressive.
Yeah, we had some guys who could score, and I was the point guard, and I had a lot of assists.
For 100-something points, I would hope so. That's just amazing. So, all right. So you go to school, you become a teacher, and you graduate from school and you start looking for jobs, and then you get into coaching. So how did you get started into coaching?
When I was at Glassboro my senior year, I got contacted by my high school coach, Ed Harvard, and he was looking for a freshman coach for the following year. And I told him, I said, listen, if I don't get anything else, I'll give it a shot. I knew I always wanted to coach. And so he hired me as his freshman coach. And actually that team was another really good team. They ended up winning like 21 or 22 games. And the interesting thing about it was they lost to Camden in like the quarter or semifinals that season. And it was another team that really excelled. And it was a lot of fun being a first-year coach, not only coaching my team on the freshman level, but being on the bench and seeing what it was all about, being on the varsity level, and having a team like that was a lot of fun being around.
Yeah, that sounds like a great experience. And I mean, Camden's just a powerhouse. I mean, even look at them now. They just have players and they just compete every year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's unbelievable how DeJuan Wagner's son is playing. And the year before I played against Camden, Milt Wagner was on the team with Billy Thompson. So I remember my junior year going to the Seagull Classic at Holy Spirit, and Milt Wagner scored 52 points against DeMatha. And that's DeJuan Wagner that's playing now's grandfather. So I guess that says I'm old, but it's kind of neat to see, having some kind of connection and knowing the history of basketball. It's just kind of cool to see.
Yeah, you have the next generation and the next generation, which is just amazing. So how long have you been coaching?
So I did that year at Vineland, and then the following year is when I went to Ocean City. I coached the JV boys for about 5 years, and then I took a year off. I think the year my son was born, and then the following year, the freshman girls position opened up. So I took it, and I'd never coached any girls sports before, and I really didn't know what to expect. And I just had a lot of fun with it. It was a really good group of athletes, not necessarily basketball players, but we had a lot of fun. And I kind of learned that girls really focus in on what you're telling them. They really listen. And so I coached 2 more years of freshman girls, and then the varsity girls position opened up, and I've done that for 20 years.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy the most about coaching?
Honestly, with basketball, I just really anything. I just enjoy teaching the game. The actual games themselves, once you're in it, are fun. I don't, I don't really like the pregame stuff. I'm kind of one of those antsy people that can't wait till the buzzer goes off and they introduce the starting lineup and everything's going. But I really do enjoy the day in and day out of teaching the game, and seeing kids get better and wanting to be there and have fun with it, and that's what, and I think that's why I coach three sports, because I just need to stay active, and I just enjoy the interactions between myself and the teams. And with football, it's a whole different dynamic than girls basketball. And then when I'm done girls basketball, I coach track in the spring, and I coach the throwers. And a lot of those guys are kids I coached in football, and it's a more relaxed environment. I get to know them in a different way, and it's just a whole nother, way of relating to them and enjoying coaching.
Yeah, that's great. So how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
I would say if you watched our team, it's very team oriented. We play mostly man-to-man defense, a lot of help defense that try to force teams, try to recognize the weaknesses of teams and help off of people who we think we can help off of and stuff like that. Uh, you know, some people think I like a methodical style of offense. I really don't. If we can push the ball, I want them to push the ball. But I haven't always had teams that could do that. And if I was to do it, we probably wouldn't stay in games. So we do run a lot of sets. My point guard from like 4 years ago, Grace Sacco, would always laugh because every practice I'd say, I think I want to try this. And at the time with her, I could do it. And I probably put in like 10 different things after I told him I wasn't going to put another thing in. But I'll just see something, and I steal stuff from other coaches all the time. When I see something that I like that I think can work, I'm going to put it in. And I think when I have more experienced teams, I'll do that more than if I don't have an experienced team.
I hear you on that. So how would you describe your coaching style? Like what kind of coach are you? You said you're kind of antsy. So, how are you on game day? Like when the game's actually happening? I can't, if you're antsy, I can't imagine you sitting on your hands on the bench being quiet then.
No, I actually, for a long time, I kneel a lot, and I don't know why I did that, but if you look, I'm constantly on a knee, and I couldn't do it this season because I'm actually getting meniscus surgery on April 2nd. I tore my meniscus, so I've been walking up and down the sidelines this season, and my assistant coach Mike Capoletti keeps telling me I'm blocking his view. So I am constantly moving. I think I'm pretty animated when I'm coaching, because when I see something, I just have to. I don't know what it is in me, but I'm going to say it, and so I am kind of loud, I guess. I've been told I am, at least sometimes, but I'm just coaching. I'm just yelling or saying what I see or what we went over and trying to communicate it to the team.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's move on to your school program history a little bit, so that the listeners in South Jersey can learn more about Ocean City. So can you tell us a little bit about how your team has done in the past?
Yeah. Well, I took over in 2001. My first couple teams, we won, I think, 18 games, 17 games, and then we kind of went through a little rebuilding where we struggled for a year, and then I really got a group of girls in who were on that team that struggled, that were young, and who really bought into what I wanted to do. It was like my first group that was just my group, and they did really well their sophomore year. I think we won like 21 games, and then their junior year, we went to the South Jersey finals 2 years in a row with that group, but we played Woodrow Wilson, who at the time was the top girls basketball team, one of the top teams in the state. So we lost twice to them in the South Jersey final. And then I believe the year after that, we won our first South Jersey final. So I had another younger group of girls that kind of came along with that group. And I had a family, the Bradys. They're actually a big family from Haddon Township area, who had moved down this way. And I had Danielle Brady and Kelly Brady, who were just really tough, good basketball players, along with other players that were good. But Kelly was a 1,000-point scorer for me, and she was on my first 2 South Jersey championship teams. And along with her, like I said, I just had some very good players. So we won a couple in like 2007 and 2008. And then in 2009, we kind of went through a little bit of a rebuild again type of thing. And then I got another group of sisters in, actually 2 groups of sisters, the Landys and the Duggans. And they kind of were part of where we won another, I think 2 or 3 South Jersey championships. And in 2013, when Julia Duggan was a senior, we won a state championship. And then we went through like another kind of rebuilding year after Julia left. And then I got Grace Sacco in as my point guard. And when Grace played for me, we won 3 South Jersey championships, and we lost in the state final at that time. We've won the state once. We went and played twice where we lost, and we would have been in the final last year, but when COVID hit, we didn't get to play. So that's kind of where the team has been over the 20 years that I've been there. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. So, I want to kind of hear more a little bit about, your state team, if you don't mind talking about that.
Sure.
So what was it like to represent South Jersey and actually, make it to states and win? How'd you feel about that?
It was a great experience. We'd actually been there in 2008 and lost. Okay. And at the time we played Malcolm X Shabazz, who was phenomenal. And we were down a point at halftime, and Trenton Catholic was playing the winner of this game in the tournament of champions. Not Trenton Catholic, Trenton Central. Okay. They were cheering us on like you wouldn't believe, because they didn't want to play Shabazz. So we ended up losing in that one. So then when we got there again in 2013, I think for me personally, just being there as a coach already, I was a lot calmer, having the experience of being there. And I think that team that I had, Julia Duggan was my center, went on to play for Ryder and played in Europe a couple of years, was just one of those players who could do a lot at 6'2", handle the ball. I could bring her out and stall the ball in presses where I'd force the big girl from the other team to have to cover. So everything just kind of fell in place. And again, I think because I'd been there once before, I think I did a better job coaching him that day. And it's I think anybody that gets there and wins a state final will tell you it's just a great experience.
Now, who did you play in the state?
We played Freehold Borough is who we played in the Central. God, I'm going to draw a blank on this.
It's like one of those things. Like, I know.
Yeah, it'll come to me. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on it.
No, so you win the states, and then did you have to play Tournament of Champions as well?
Yeah, we did play. We played Red Bank Catholic. I think it was two or three nights after that, and they beat us.
Wow. So when you went to the States, did you guys play at the Rack? Is that where you played?
Yeah. Wow. And that I had, again, haven't been there before. Seeing that building, it looks smaller the second time. The first time I walked in there, it felt bigger. And I think, when the girls go in there and they see that, and they see the big screen in the corner with the game going on, I think it's pretty cool for them to see that.
Yeah, I went there 2 years ago, and we watched Franklin beat, who did they beat? Saddle River Day.
Right.
When we walked in there, I had brought my daughters. It was almost like I felt like the movie Hoosiers when they walked in for the state finals, and they're looking around, and it's like so overwhelming because they've never been in a huge place, and it's like just a gigantic, stadium, the court, the lights, the scoreboard in the middle of the court,
right.
the whole kit and caboodle, and it was just like an amazing experience. So, for your girls to end up being there and playing there, that's just amazing. I mean, the Tournament of Champions is, something to be proud of playing in, and winning the state title is just, something that's just amazing because, representing South Jersey, that's a tough road to get to that state finals, and then to win, that's even more impressive.
Yeah, I think like you said, when you first go in there and you see the building, the gymnasium itself, just that experience. And I could just tell even the last time we went, when the girls first walked in there and they were looking, they were like, wow, this is really pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you won your state title. How do you celebrate? You have a banner, I guess, now, and you're hanging in the gym.
Honestly, this is a little bit of a sore spot with me. We're one of the only schools I think I've ever gone into the gym and there's not a banner that recognizes a state championship basketball team.
Really?
Yeah, I've actually brought this up a couple times, and
Wow.
so our year is up on the actual banner that where you have South Jersey or state numbers, I guess by year, but
Right.
there's no banner that represents our actual team from that year, and there have been a couple boys teams that won it years ago.
Yeah.
And the gym is actually named after Dixie Howe, who won those two state finals, and there's nothing that represents them either. So I've kind of voiced my opinion on that, but it's kind of, I think, gone unheard. So
Well, hopefully, in the future they decide to bring the alumni back and do the right thing and hang a banner in their honor. Just to bring the
yeah,
alumni back and to celebrate. It's nice because I was talking to the Woodstown coach, and they told me that they didn't win a conference since like a championship since 1970 something,
right.
74. Told me. So he said it's a big motivator for the kids when they walk into the gym and they see that number 1974. They know that they have to step up and to play and really just to be dedicated in order for them to try to win that conference title. And that's what they really wanted to do as one of their team goals. So I think in the long run, it'll be great for the players and just for the whole community to be able to celebrate that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tradition at Ocean City. There's a lot of teams that have accomplished a lot of things, and and they do represent. There are banners that represent all those things, but I've just always noticed that if you go into a gym and the team has won a state for basketball, it's recognized that way. So
Yeah,
you know,
very prominent publicly.
yeah,
So I have to ask you. So being that Ocean City is a shore town,
right.
it's fairly small. So I mean, most of the people I would assume is just like any other shore town. It's busy. From Memorial Day through Labor Day, and then everybody goes back to their regular houses, and then you have the residents that live there. So is it pretty much a small town? I mean,
Yeah,
what do you guys do?
it's a interesting dynamic. If you go over the 34th Street Bridge, it's actually considered Upper Township.
Okay.
And Upper Township is a bunch of different, like little communities, Marmora, Palermo, Ocean View. I actually live in Petersburg, which is like everybody says, where is Petersburg? Like nobody knows where I live. But they're all these little communities within a community. And about 60% of our students come from Upper Township. So
Really?
they come from offshore. Then there's been more people that have lived year round in Ocean City again now. So we are getting more students from Ocean City. Longport is a few kids come from Longport, and Sea City is another sending district to us. So it's actually about 1,300 students total.
Wow.
So we're group 3. It's more than people than you would think, and it's interesting. The kids come together pretty well from the different areas. So they're normally competing against each other through 8th grade. And then when they come into the high school, they have to mesh together in all sports. And I think it's worked out really well. We're also a choice school. So we do get, depending upon the year, we get a certain amount of kids that will maybe come from like Margate or Absecon, Brigantine, places like that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So it seems
Yeah.
like you're from, all different communities, which makes up, the Ocean City, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
let's go on to last year, and we can go through some stuff. So, what was it like? That was basically our last full year before COVID hit. So, what are the different things you're looking for? Like, tell me about your season last year.
Well, we started out 1-5, which was a little tough, but we played really good teams. We played Rancocas Valley in our tip-off tournament, and it was a close game. We lost. And then at Christmas, we were invited to play at Cherokee. And I wanted to take on the challenges early on for the team. And we got beat up. We got beat up pretty good by Washington Township, and then Cherokee really beat us up pretty good. And then I had promised the guys in Wildwood, because I normally go there to play, that I would give them one game, a showcase game.
Okay.
And we played Kingsway. And when we lost that game, I have to probably tell you, I probably had the longest talk I've ever had with the team afterwards. Just like, where do you want to take this? What are we going to do? You know, we were 1-5. The kids were pretty down. And to their credit, they really stuck it out. And I had a player who was all-state soccer player who was injured off the soccer season, who just was a phenomenal athlete, that I knew when I got her back, the dynamic of our team would change just from an athletic standpoint. And she came back about 2 games after that. We went on like a 15-game win streak.
Wow.
We beat Mainland, who had Kylie Watson in the tournament at our gym. We beat a really good Atlantic City team. You know, along the way, we beat some good teams. And it just kind of propelled us through the rest of the season. And the second time we played Mainland, we actually got blown out on their court. And but I felt like when we lost games as the season progressed, the team learned how to just forget about it and move on because of what happened earlier in the year. And then when we got to the playoffs, we just got hot. We got to the finals against Mainland. We were able to beat them by 3 points in their gym. And then we went and played West Hampton Tech in the Central final game and beat them. And that night, I can remember hearing that the NBA had just canceled their games.
Right.
And when I heard that, I said, they're going to shut us down. And we got word that that's what was happening. So it was really kind of a big downer that we had accomplished this, you know, through a pretty tough part of the season, and then not being able to, you know, play in that state final game. And I felt bad for the girls not being able to experience what we talked about, you know, going to the, you know, Tom's River and being in that building and seeing the court, because none of those girls, well, only the seniors were with me when we had been there the time before. So, you know, all the rest of the girls, it would have been a brand new experience.
Yeah, I think about that all the time, you know, about these kids that just had, you know, their opportunity taken away.
Yeah.
You know, and it was tough. I mean, you know, there was a lot of uncertainty because you didn't know what was going on. Schools just closed. You know, the boys lost their venue. There were so many factors going in. I think when you guys played, that was the day that they didn't even let spectators into the gym.
No. So we played that game. There was only, I believe, the athletic directors from both schools, reporters. We had our guys that do our TV stuff and radio. So they were sitting across the court. I could hear every word they were saying. It was really strange. And you don't realize what the fans do to a gym, like as far as even hearing the basketball dribble, like you could hear everything. And I remember thinking to myself, I better watch what I say because I might yell something and it's going to go clear on through wherever somebody is. But it's, you know, it was definitely different. The atmosphere wasn't the same. And if you've watched any of the games this season, I think the kids are playing hard, but there is that missing aspect of the fan involvement.
Yeah, definitely. I have to ask you, so, you know, with that tough start and that tough schedule, how much do you think that played into the fact that you're able to make a run for a state championship at the end of the season? I mean, do you think that really molded your team and kind of, you know, shaped them in order to take on like the tougher teams? Because, I mean, you did play some great competition in the beginning of the year. I mean, your record, you know, wasn't maybe what you would expected it to be, but I mean, by the time you go against these other teams in the States, I mean, I think you know what it's like to play these teams in tough situations, you know?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that you have to go out and find those games. When my first teams actually won the first year we won a state championship, or not a state championship, but a South Jersey. Tom Williams, who runs a lot of tournaments down in our area, called me preseason, and he asked me to play Christ the King and St. John Vianney in the same weekend. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh man, do I really want to do this? And I decided to do it. And we actually beat Christ the King. And I tell everybody this, I don't care about any of the other things that happened. That was like the best victory I ever had, because I don't think they thought we were going to be any good. And from when we ran our first set in the game, I knew they didn't scout us. And we ended up beating them. And I think we totally shocked them. And we ended up losing to St. John Vianney, who has been a perennial, great team. And I learned from that if you play in those games and your kids get in those situations, they're going to be better off down the road. Nothing's going to surprise them. And so I feel like last year I had a lot of seniors. I had 5 seniors on that team. I felt like they could handle the adversity down the road. And I didn't expect we were going to be 1-5, but you have a choice. You're either going to battle through it or you can cry about it. And they battled through it. So to their credit, I think it did help them down the line.
Yeah, I think also it's like, you got to get hot at the right time. And, I think a slow start is okay as long as you can right the ship. You won 15 games in a row, and now you're riding that streak. And it's almost like those losses become a distant memory. Like you remember it, but not really, because now you're experiencing success. So here you are going through the year. What was your favorite game from last year?
I would say the South Jersey final with Mainland, because all our games are always really close. People laugh about it because their scores are like 30-27 or 33-30. Last year's score was 32-29, but we held Kylie Watson actually, I think, to 3 points.
Wow.
And I think there were 3 foul shots. I don't think she had a field goal. And there have been other games where we played them where she destroyed us. They were always really tough games. We played them, I believe, 4 straight years in the South Jersey final. And so that achievement, I think, for me as a coach was the best thing from last year.
So how is it that, those kids basically are neighboring towns, and a lot of the kids, I would assume, have played against each other in middle school and travel. So are a lot of the kids between Mainland and Ocean City friendly and are friends?
Very friendly, actually. So Abby Fenton and Emma Finnegan, who were on my team, they played AAU basketball when they were younger with Kylie for years. And then Kylie went on to play for the Bells and, higher level. But they're still good friends. And a lot of the other girls play AAU together. Really, in the Cape Atlantic League, I would say a majority of the girls at some point are teammates in the summer. And there's a lot of friendships there. And I think as coaches, we've developed a lot of friendships. I've become really good friends with some of the guys that I've coached against over the years. So it's kind of neat. I mean, I think when we're playing and we're going up against each other, we're doing what we can to win the game, and we're battling. But I think when it's all said and done, I think there's a pretty good relationship amongst the players and pretty much a lot of the coaches in the area.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about maybe some standout players that you've had from last year's team?
Yeah. Well, again, Abby Fenton was my 3-point shooter. She got really hot as the year went on. And when she started hitting threes, our whole team dynamic changed. Abby was the goalie on the state championship soccer team. The soccer team won a state championship. So she was the goalie, and she was also the goalie for the lacrosse team, who has been really good. So basketball was squeezed somewhere in between those 2 sports for her. She's actually at Cabrini playing lacrosse now. Emma Finnegan was my center. She's at Rutgers now doing crew. But she was a girl that played for me. She played a little bit as a freshman, and as every year went on, had a bigger and bigger role, and had a pretty good outside shot for a bigger girl. Lauren Mursky was my other taller player. She was athletic, could rebound and run the floor pretty well. And then my other senior that played a lot was Delaney Lappin, and she was the girl who I was talking about as a soccer player, was phenomenal soccer player. She's playing at Drexel now. And as far as basketball, just one of those kids that every time you'd see somebody fly through and grab a rebound, and like out of nowhere, it would be her, and just did the little things that, you just can't coach, that kind of player. And then my younger players who played for me again this year were Marley Bressel was my point guard, and Marin Panico was like a swing guard forward. They were my main players.
Well, that's great.
Mhm.
So, last season, ends. And I think, what do they name everybody? Regional champions or
Yes.
something like that?
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I mean, I've been pushing that they should name them, they should be co-champions of the state. I mean, really, at that point,
Yeah.
they didn't get it's not like they didn't want to play the game. I mean, the kids were willing. I mean, I know parents on our end, we were willing to send our kids and letting them play, and we would figure out if we'd be able to watch live stream or whatever, but we wanted our kids to have the experience.
Right.
Because you might only have that experience one time.
Yeah, we were in the same boat. We wanted to play. Obviously, we played the last game that was played.
Yeah.
And I actually talked to Ron Powell about this and a few of the other coaches. And actually, one of the coaches from up north put together a great letter to the state.
Yeah.
Had a lot of input from every coach that was involved, asking basically for the teams to be named co-state champions. But they denied it. I don't know why, but it would have been a nice thing for the kids to be recognized, having that, because they lost so much. That's the other thing. Not only did they lose that opportunity, but then if any of them were a spring athlete, they lost that season. So, sometimes you get those things, sometimes you don't. But I think it would have been a nice thing for the kids.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing. And the other problem you run into is they didn't run any kind of state or playoffs this year, so it's going to be 2 years.
Right.
You're going to have a 2-year lag or fallout drop off where you didn't have any state championship, any state playoffs, name or champions named or no playoffs. Maybe next year you don't know. So I mean, we had 15 games, which was nice, but it would have
we
been
didn't we didn't even get 15 games, and we got 11. So
it's
this was definitely a strange year.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I'm looking forward to moving forward and getting through. And I think once the summer comes and we were talking earlier, more people get vaccines.
Mhm.
Everybody's immune system gets stronger. They get that herd immunity. Then things will be a little bit different. I just want to see the kids get back to a normal life.
Right.
The kids have to live behind computers. I mean, it's bad enough that they're on their cell phones all the time, and now they're behind the computer all day long, which makes it crazy.
Yeah, that's not good either.
So let's talk about this season, and maybe how you had to prepare for this season, how maybe things were a little bit different in years past. I mean, did you notice anything or did you have to adjust things because of all of COVID?
I think the tough thing for me and for the girls is we really and I'm sure a lot of teams are the same way. We put a lot of time in the summer. I have a lot of multi-sport athletes, and I just think not being able to get in the weight room, with having a younger team coming back, at least not having a summer league, not going to team camp, all those things made it difficult as far as what to expect or how were the girls going to come back. Now I did have them, a lot of them played AAU, and so they were playing and doing something, but it's just not the same. I think is when you can get them together and you're doing what you want to do, and especially my bigger girls were really young, and I think if we would have had more time to work with them in the summer and just get them in the weight room and things like that, it would have made things better. But again, everybody went through that. So I think if you talk to any coach, they probably would tell you that at the beginning the team was probably rusty, and so I felt like we were a little rusty at the beginning, and the effort was there, but I felt like everything was rushed because I think it was January 11th we started, and 2 weeks later we were playing, and then it was just a quick season. So for me, I'm big on preparation and putting different things in, and I always felt like I was rushing things, and I wasn't maybe not covering things as well as I did in the past.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned the weight room, which is pretty interesting because not a lot of coaches mentioned that. Like, Why do you feel that the girls hitting the weight room is important, and how do you think it affects them on the court?
We just found that once we incorporated the weight training into what we were doing, they just got a lot stronger, physically stronger. And I was actually, along with that, it was funny. I got an email from a guy about 12 years ago. He was a trainer, like a personal trainer guy, asking me if he could work with the team. And I didn't know what the guy's angle was going to be, if he's looking to make money, whatever. And normally I kind of am a little cold to that kind of stuff. But I said, what the heck? For some reason, I emailed him back and said, listen, if you want to come on Wednesday mornings, you can come in, do a workout. He did that about 12 years ago, and we've been doing it ever since. The guy is phenomenal. So what we would do is Mondays were our summer league, the Monday nights. Tuesdays, we would have a weight training basketball workout. Wednesdays, this guy, Doug, would come and absolutely crush my team in this physical fit. I mean, it was like whatever these boot camp things are that people go to that I would probably have a heart attack doing. This guy was just really good. So it was a nice combination of the weight room and then him on Wednesday, putting him through this, body weight, physical fitness routine. And then we would do basketball right after it. And then Thursdays we would weight train again. I just felt like we established something where it just made the girls stronger. And I think more confident, like just when they feel stronger, they just feel more confident in what they're doing. And that's where I felt like my younger girls never got that experience. They didn't get to go through that to get them ready and even mentally tough. Not having that, I think was not good, but that's what we do. And that's what I think the benefit of it is.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm hoping to get my daughter, back into, exercising more, now that basketball season's over. And I think the weights is good too, because, she's at that point now where she's probably done growing. So now it's just time to, help her fill out her frame a little bit. Like you said, build up her confidence and just get her stronger so she can compete on the court, which is fantastic. So here you are during the season, and I know you've taken a lot of precautions and trying to keep your team safe. But I know that you guys did run into an issue with your varsity team. How did that affect your season this year?
So what happened was we played on a Tuesday night, and turned out that two of the players on the team we played reported symptoms the next day that they weren't feeling well. We actually did go play another game because we hadn't been notified yet. On that Friday, we found out that they both tested positive. So it went back to, I believe, the Thursday that this happened.
Right.
And from that point on, we were out from February 17th till this past Thursday.
Wow.
So this past Thursday, we had a practice, and then we played Friday and we played Saturday, and that was our season. So and a bunch of teams in our conference were affected by it. So it wasn't just us. It affected multiple teams in our particular conference through basically that one incident.
Wow. How do you feel this year? It seems like talking to coaches to get more games and practices. Normally it's you practice and then you have a game and then you have some time in between. But with these 4-game weeks and then getting shut down and where the kids can't train, I mean, you're just trying to get the games in. How do you feel about that, and how do you think it kind of affected you guys?
Well, again, it was tough because here's the other thing that happened to us. So before we were going to play Mainland, we had 2 weather days where we weren't allowed in the gym. So we didn't get to practice the 2 days prior to playing them the second time. And with Ocean City, it's not always snow. One of the days was a coastal flood day. So we didn't go in, and with the Zoom capabilities, they just handled it like it was a regular day virtual. So it wasn't even like there was a snow day or whatever. We got credit for the day, but we weren't allowed in the building to practice. So we didn't get to practice those 2 days before we played them. We played Mainland, and then President's Weekend was coming. We were supposed to play on that Monday, and they wanted to move it off that date because the normal whatever they hold at the school, they weren't having it. They wanted to keep the school shut. We weren't able to get in there. They moved the game to Tuesday. That's the Tuesday we played the team that got us infected.
Right.
So we played on Tuesday, we played Middle Township the next day, and then we were shut down. So I want to say over like a week and a half period, we might have had one practice.
Wow.
And you know, it's everybody, again, everybody's going through the same type of things, but when it multiplies like that, it just makes it even tougher. And the worst part of it was finding out that we were going to be shut down for 2 weeks after that.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of adjustment. It's a lot of, I mean, it seems like I would call it scrambling, because here I
right,
am, I'm looking on Twitter, and Mike Hallahan's trying to help match up teams, because this team's looking for a game, this team's looking for a
right,
game. And, it's just hard because transportation, the AD's got to get the schedule, you got to get the gyms, and then
right,
especially this week because they started practice for season 3. So volleyball and gymnastics are training now. So like if you only have one gym, I mean you're kind of at a point where you're kind of stuck and you don't have that availability. But I mean, I guess people are juggling schedules and doing whatever they could, so you're able to get your games in. So
yeah. And I think what's that? I'm sorry.
how did you end out the season? Were you able to finish up your games?
Yeah, so we were supposed to play ACIT in a crossover game. So that game was just moved from a Thursday to a Friday.
Okay.
So we played them on this past Friday. And then Egg Harbor Township had contacted us earlier about it. They needed a game. So we actually played them yesterday. So it did give my seniors a chance to end out the season, with playing a couple games. So I was happy that we were able to do that.
So how did you celebrate your seniors this year, knowing that we might not have fans and things like that? When did you do your senior night?
We actually, again, going back to the game where we ended up getting quarantined, was our senior night. So we did get our senior night in, but that was the game that put us in quarantine.
Wow.
So we were able to get the parents in. We were able to, recognize them that night. And then yesterday, I started all 3 of them again. So they were able to get that last game in and play together for, quite a while in the game.
That's great. I mean, it's nice that they get to you got to finish up your season. I mean, I'm sure that there's teams out there that had their season canceled and never had an opportunity to get back on the court.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the team I feel the worst for is Atlantic City. They had one of their player, a really, really good young player, had some issues and wasn't able to play a majority of the first part of the season, and then came back, I believe, for 1 game, maybe 2 games, and then they got quarantined and they got shut down they never played again.
Wow.
And that was a team that with this girl, I think they could have been really good. And Jason Lance, the coach there, has done a phenomenal job. And you look at somebody like that who has put a lot of time in, and to lose the season that way, so that's when you could take a step back and say, yeah, well, our season was kind of not what we wanted it to be, but some people had it even worse than we did. So, you gotta be grateful for what you have. That's kind of the way I looked at it.
Yeah, definitely. So who was your groupings in the Cape Atlantic this year? Because I know they broke them up into divisions or pods, I guess, because of proximity.
Yeah. So what happened with us was it just happened to turn out that we got grouped with Mainland, Wildwood Catholic, Middle Township, and Atlantic City, who over the past maybe 5-6 years have all been in the Cape Atlantic tournament playing each other, and one of us has won it. So we all ended up in the same conference. So we were supposed to play each other 2 times each, and then we all had 2 crossover games. Well, because of COVID, some of that got mixed up. So we did play Middle twice, we did play Mainland twice, and we played Wildwood Catholic and Atlantic City once. And then Cape May, Lower Cape May, and Cape May Tech were the other 2 teams that were in our conference.
Wow. So did you ever have a conference tournament, or that got canceled because of COVID?
They never officially set it up. They decided at the beginning of the year that we were going to play the 12 games in our conference and 2 crossovers, and that was it. And then if you wanted to pick up an additional game, you could pick up an additional game.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, let's get back to your team a little bit. What do you think are your keys to success? So here you are, you're preparing for the games, you lay out the season, your goals, things like that. But if you were to name a couple of things that your team needs to do in order to be successful and to compete day in and day out on the court, what do you think that you would have your girls work on?
first thing, I am a big defensive coach, so, playing good team defense. I feel like if you can do that, you can stay in games, even if you're maybe not as talented as the team you're playing. So if it's close, you can get that big stop if you need to. And then, I really just try to emphasize fundamentals. Like, I think, I tell the girls all the time, my best teams have been the teams that take the drills we do and actually just incorporate that into the game. If you're playing any team that's good and well coached, they're going to break down your offense. They're going to know what you're doing. They're going to call the plays out. They're going to say where you're going and what you're doing, and you have to be able to adjust to that. And you have to have the skill level to adjust. And so that's really what I try to emphasize and develop within the kids, that they, handle the ball better. Obviously you got to shoot. I would say one thing with our team this season, we struggled a little bit more handling the ball at times, and it hurt us.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like you had a great season. I mean, all things considered. We're getting towards the end of the interview and podcast here. So one thing I do like to finish off with when I'm talking to coaches is asking them, their ideas or maybe their thoughts on, how we can grow the game of basketball here in South Jersey. And I know one of the challenges that's always brought up is South Jersey is so spread out. I mean, you're going from Cape May all the way to basically in my mind, the Trenton border and all the way across the state. So, I mean, we're so spread out where like in the north, especially the shore, they're all in a condensed area. The north, they're in a condensed area, where South Jersey is just so spread out, and it's just the demographics are just different. So, what do you think we could do to grow the game and get more exposure?
There have been a lot more tournaments, and I think sometimes it's a good idea, because I think the boys naturally attract more fans. Is maybe a few more girl boy double headers, and even if it's taking a Cherokee in an Ocean City doing something like that, or a Shawnee in an Ocean City, and where teams from a distance doing it, it might enable people to see what's there on the girls side that normally wouldn't attend the game. And I know for us, when we have girl boy double headers with like even we do them at Wildwood, it's just attended by a lot more people. And then now the people who were there to watch the boys come in a little earlier, and they see our team and they're like, wow, maybe I'll go watch another game. This team's pretty good. So along with the regular tournaments, I think if you can maybe set up some games like that, because again, I just think naturally the boys are drawing more fans. You might get that exposure a little bit more there, for the girls teams.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. I like that idea. A couple of coaches have brought that up. I mean, I like if you do like you said, girls first, because at least then you'll get people for the tail end of the girls game going into the boys game.
Right.
I think if you flip it, then you'll have guys that'll stay for the girls, but maybe only for the first quarter, or maybe they might not stay, and they might not stay for the end. So if it's a good game, and if it's a nice crosstown rivalry or cross-state rivalry, and you can build it up over the course of a couple of years, where you do like 1 year at one school, 1 year at the other, it might develop into something. But I think, again, it's something that has to take time, and you have to just nurture that relationship and get that rivalry going, just to make it fun. The other thing that I like is the live stream. What are your thoughts on the live stream, and do you think that's helpful for the community?
Yeah, it's funny because I've had friends be able to watch it from pretty far away, and family members. Yeah, I mean, anything that enables people to see the game, get exposure to it. I just hope it doesn't get to the point where somebody decides, hey, I'm just going to watch it instead of going to the actual game, when they can go. Because you're always going to get the family members. They're going to attend. But, I wouldn't want it to take away from people that might have come to the game and now say, I can sit here in my house and watch this. That's what I'm going to do. But as far as this season, it was awesome because it gave, the people that want to be at the games were able to see either their kids play or their friends play, or, family members. And so having that availability was great.
Yeah, I think it's cool that people from all over can watch the game. And the other thing too is, since most of the time the game is taped, if you can't watch that game at that particular time, you can go back at nighttime and you can watch it. It gives family members who are working and can't make it to the game an opportunity to see it. It gives kids, like, if you wanted to watch, if your girls from Ocean City wanted to watch the mainland team play, when they got done, they could go on the live stream and they could watch their friends play, or you could watch the kids from Wildwood or whatever, the other local towns are. So I think it helps build up camaraderie, and you get to notice the kids more. I think that's one of the problems, is by the time you play a team, you don't know the players, you don't know the team. And I think the more we can familiarize ourselves with these players and teams, I think it's going to help grow the sport for sure. And another thing that people have noticed and they've commented on is like the recreational programs in their town. So what's Ocean City like as far as, like, are they a pretty big basketball town, and do they have a lot of courts around the town?
Yeah, there's a lot of courts. 34th Street is kind of notorious for where you play the pickup games. That's kind of the courts that are known for that. And then there's courts behind the intermediate school, and then there's kind of like a little secret court that I've trained kids on that's kind of tucked away a little bit more, but it's been found by more people now. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's 15th Street, there's courts. 52nd Street, there's some courts. So there's quite a few courts and opportunities for people to get on, and kids to get on and play. The rec program's very well run. They have a civic center that's actually under reconstruction right now. I think they're expanding, and is going to be, I don't know if you've ever been down where our football field is, or school. It's a really neat setup. If you have ever been to Wonderland Pier, where the rides are, it's a big ride place. Our school basically sits on the beach. So in back of the school is a beautiful football field. They turfed it about 7 or 8 years ago. And then the Civic Center is right near that, which they're redoing right now. So there is some really nice athletic facility things going on. It's a shore town, so everything's compacted. Small area to actually do everything. But it's a pretty cool setup. And so there are camps that are run out of there and things like that. So the game is played a lot.
Yeah, that's just fantastic. I mean, it's just cool because the one thing I noticed was a lot of kids go on vacation, or you get college kids that like maybe live down the shore for the summer and now they're playing pickup. So I think it brings like a variety of talent, and it makes for fun basketball, and people make friends. Like I know when we went to Wildwood last year, there were a number of girls from college that were playing pickup, and actually one of the girls, I thought she was phenomenal when we were playing, and then I find out that she's like a top player at Lafayette. She's a senior. I don't know the last name. First name was Natalie, but man, this kid could play, and I was like so surprised, and I got excited. I was like, oh, let me look at these kids, and now you start following them. So I think if more students have an opportunity to find more fellow players and from other towns, I think it's going to help with the friendships, and it's going to grow the game, and it's going to make the game better because the talent's going to be better too.
Oh yeah, and you definitely get all kinds of players down our way. Working out. Like I said, because of where we're located, people want to work out there, and so you'll get quite a few college players. I've had some college players come in and actually work out with the team over the years. Actually, some girls from other schools who are down maybe for a week or whatever, and they'll contact me. Can they come in and shoot, or I'll let them train with us if they want to. I mean, if they want to get a run in or whatever. So there's definitely opportunities for that, and it's nice because it's in a more relaxed situation, I think.
Yeah. That's great. I think the biggest thing now is just to expand the network, and like you said, making friends with more people, making it so that the kids can make friends, and then those opportunities will present themselves. So I just want to say thank you for a great interview. I really enjoyed talking to you, and despite all the things that happened to your team during the season, I think it's great that you're able to finish off the season and give your seniors one last run, and the students, because I think basketball is something that these girls look forward to, and they need it to give them something to look forward to, keep them excited, keep them motivated, And now it's just a shame because it's over. It just went too quick,
Right.
in my opinion. But we're just happy that we were able to play.
Yep. Yeah, same thing here.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks for
All right.
talking. I'll talk to you soon. Good luck.
All right. Thanks for having me. Yep.
Bye-bye.